So I think it's finally time we get real here and talk about Tom Aspinall versus John Jones. This whole Stipe fight should not happen. It should not be the next fight for John Jones. It very well should be Tom Aspinall. And you know what? I've been watching a few podcasts recently, listened to Rampage Jackson, Luke Rockhold, TJ Dillashaw, and some random guy. And I believe that TJ Dillashaw is the most based fighter or former UFC champion right now. And you know what? Listening to me might not even convince you of that. Listening to any other MMA YouTuber might not convince you of that either. But I think coming from a stone cold Roy Cheat, but a stone cold fighter in TJ Dillashaw might convince you because he is speaking facts in his most recent podcast. And I want to lay out the truth and kind of not fact check, but kind of give some counter arguments to what Rampage Jackson and to what Luke Rockhold was saying in that podcast, because I feel like they are just giving the most lukewarm, just kind of takes in their podcast, while TJ Dillashaw is out here spewing the truth. And you know what? I'm kind of just over this whole Stipe versus John Jones conversation. It really shouldn't be a conversation anymore. I'm going to break down some arguments when I react to this podcast real quick, but overall, I think it needs to be heard. And I think TJ Dillashaw being that voice for kind of the majority of the MMA fan base right now is something that people need to hear. So I have a segment from their podcast. I'm going to react to it and give my counter arguments and listen to TJ Dillashaw spit absolute facts. So here we go. Here's their podcast right here. I actually really enjoy their podcast, so shout out to them. It's called the Jackson Podcast. I guess that's their brand they're being sponsored by. But Rampage is really funny. Dillashaw is kind of really chill. So I think overall it's a very intriguing podcast and you should give it a listen. But in this segment, I want to break down the whole conversation between John Jones and Tom Aspinall and this whole Stipe situation. So let's not waste more time. Let's get right into it.
I mean,
Much more intriguing, I think, than John.
you guys have all been champions. What is your opinion on this interim champion thing that's going on right now?
Okay, so pretty basic take here. Pretty basic question. I mean, not take. He's basically asking, what's your opinion, everybody in this room right now, everybody in this podcast, what's your opinion about John Jones not fighting Tom Aspinall? That's pretty much the whole take. That's pretty much the whole question. Why isn't John Jones fighting Tom Aspinall? What's your opinion on John Jones not fighting Tom Aspinall? So we're going to hear what their take is, I guess.
It sucks.
It sucks?
Yeah.
Like, should they be co-champions?
No, it sucks because
Okay, co-champions is pretty stupid. What is a co-champion? It basically is the interim belt. Like, how can you be a co-champion? You can't sit here and claim that two people can be the best in the world in their division at the same time. There has to be some sort of number one position, which is the championship belt itself. So co-champions is a pretty casual take. I don't think that's a kind of a dumb thing to say, if I'm being honest with you, but it doesn't really matter. Let's hear Dillashaw's take.
it's like when there's two champions that are active, they should fight each other. It doesn't suck if they fight each other, but they're not fighting each other.
They're not active. John Jones hasn't fought in a long time.
He's on the roster, right? Like he's on the
He fought
roster
one time at heavyweight.
I know.
I think Luke Rockhold's confused here. I don't think John Jones being inactive is like the premise of the question here, because Tom Aspinall has been active. He's been fighting, I think a few times a year now. John Jones is injured. That's not really, I don't think you understood the question, Luke Rockhold, because I think inactivity doesn't really apply to this. The more so debated topic is the fact that when John Jones is healthy and when he comes back, who should he fight next? And John Jones wants to fight Stipe and not the current interim champion who already has one defense of his belt so far against Curtis Blades that he won by first round TKO in under a minute. So that's kind of the whole question that people have in regards to this, not about John Jones being inactive. Of course, they haven't fought yet because John Jones has been hurt. He fought Cyril Gahn for his heavyweight debut on the belt. It is what it is. But since then, he got hurt, tore his pec. So it's not really, the question doesn't really revolve around, oh, John Jones is inactive. Of course, they haven't fought yet. No, it's like when John Jones comes back, who should he fight next? And it should be Tom Aspinall. But let's continue.
So what should be happening, Luke, in your opinion?
Good question.
I mean, at this point, you just kind of, you give it to Aspinall.
Aspinall.
Okay, Luke Rockhold out here being based as well. They should give it to Aspinall. Why not? Why not give it to Aspinall? Why not give it to him? What has he done to not deserve the next title shot against John Jones? Why? Because John Jones said so? That to me is not really a good take to have, but let's hear what Rampage has to say about it as well.
Aspinall. What do you mean, Luke Rockhold?
I think he's, I mean, I questioned it at first, but I mean, like now he's the only one
To fight Jones,
really fighting right now. And I think he's the crazy, he should be technically declared the current champion.
I still think he should fight Jones. Think how much money he's going to
Yeah,
make.
but
if he
Jones
fights
ain't going to fight him. Jones will not fight Aspinall. Think about John Jones. John Jones has beaten everybody. He's the most legendary career. He's never lost to one.
Okay, I'm gonna stop it right here real quick. Now, Luke Rockhold's onto something real quick. He's onto something. He's kind of getting into it a little bit now, and he's kind of right? John Jones won't fight Tom Aspinall, but why? And I think he's going off on a little tangent here about how John Jones is the greatest of all time. And he's probably getting to the point where he's going to say that John Jones is the greatest of all time. He's beat everybody. He's the go of the sport. Why risk your legacy against Tom Aspinall, who is the most dangerous guy in the heavyweight division right now? Like, why risk all of those accomplishments just to get finished by Tom Aspinall? That's where Rockhold's going with this right now. And it makes sense. Honestly, it does make sense for John Jones not to fight Tom Aspinall. If I was John Jones, I wouldn't fight Tom Aspinall. However, if I was the UFC, I would not give John Jones Stipe. I would say, John Jones, it's either you retire right now, vacate the belt, Tom Aspinall gets it, he becomes undisputed, and you go off into the sunset, you're the god of the sport, it is what it is. And if John Jones did that, I would be sad because I do want to see the Aspinall versus Jones fight. That would disappoint me. But if John Jones cares about his legacy so much to the point where he doesn't want to fight Tom Aspinall, just retire now. Just give it up now. Just stop wasting our time. I know Stipe is a legacy fight for John Jones, but doesn't make sense right now. And like Rockhold said earlier, he's active. He's the one who's defending the belt. He's the one who's fighting consistently, while Stipe isn't. So Rockhold, you're right. You're perfectly right in this. You are correct because you are saying that the guy who is the current interim heavyweight champion of the world right now, who is active, defending the interim belt, should be next in line for the next title shot versus John Jones, and not this 40-something-year-old man who hasn't fought in probably, 3+ years, who's been out on the sidelines doing jack shit. That guy does not deserve the next title shot versus all of the credentials you listed for Tom Aspinall just now, but we'll continue.
The most dangerous fight of his whole career is right here in front of him.
Yeah.
Is Aspinall with no reward. Why would you fight Aspinall and not get and risk your whole legacy for a fight that, or you could fight Stipe, you're gonna beat him, and you secure your heavyweight championship.
I understand that. He ain't gonna do that. It sucks for the sport.
I was agreeing with him till he disrespected my homeboy Stipe.
Yeah.
I was agreeing. You disrespected Stipe.
It's not disrespect, Rampage. It's not disrespect. It's just the truth. It's just the truth. That's all it is. Not disrespect. Rockhold's not here saying that Stipe is trash, he's garbage, he's terrible compared to John Jones, he has no chance of winning. That's not what Rockhold's saying. He's just saying that the guy who has been active in the UFC defending his belt that's meant to be in place of John Jones deserves a John Jones fight more than Stipe. It's not him disrespecting Stipe. Nobody here is saying that Stipe is garbage, trash, not the heavyweight GOAT. Everybody's just saying that Tom Aspinall is the bigger fight and has a way better case to fight John Jones than Stipe.
I'm my boy too, but I don't think Stipe beats John Jones. I think
Stipe's an amazing human being.
An amazing fight.
Yeah, Stipe has a chance to beat John Jones.
Is John Jones the GOAT? Yes, but can Stipe have a chance? Of course. He's one of the best heavyweights ever.
It's not about if Stipe has a chance. It doesn't matter about who wins between Stipe and John Jones. It does matter, obviously, a little bit. But when it comes to who should be next for John Jones, it's not about how good a person Stipe is. It's not about how nice of a guy Stipe is and how he has so many accolades. No, that's all the past. We can't cling on to what has happened in the past and just justify title shots because of that. We can't give Aljo a rematch against O'Malley because he was a champion beforehand. We shouldn't just give anybody who was a former champion infinite title shots because they're a former champion. That's not how things work around here. That's not how business should work in general in the UFC. I think you have to earn your title shot. And if you asked me who has earned a title shot to fight John Jones, Tom Aspinall, or Stipe Miocic, just look at their most recent fights and tell me who deserves it more. It's Tom Aspinall, 100%.
Ever.
Yeah.
But
What are you talking about, Luke Rockhold?
Does that fight make sense? It does not.
Hater.
That fight does not make sense.
It does. It
my
does make
God.
sense.
How not, TJ Dillashaw?
Because you should be fighting Aspinall, bro.
Who?
John Jones. He's the champion.
John Jones should fight Stipe.
Stipe been waiting
Stipe
for fighting
wanted to
John
fight.
Jones for a long time.
Thank you, Ram.
He's been waiting. That's his justification. That's the reason why Stipe should fight John Jones, because he's been waiting. So anybody who waits gets a title shot. If you just want to wait for your title shot, you get it. Now, it works sometimes. If you're Edwards, if you just wait for years and not fight anybody, you will eventually be able to fight Kamaru Usman. But is that good justification? Sitting out on the sidelines doing nothing is the best reason you can come up with for Stipe to fight Jon Jones because he's been waiting for years? That's on him, man. That's on him. If he wanted to prove it right now and make sure he was next in line for a title shot, he would have fought sometime in the past 3 years. I don't think just waiting deserves anybody a title shot. I think you have to earn it. I think you have to be able to go into the octagon and beat contenders currently in the UFC to earn your title shot. You just can't sit out after losing to Ngannou for years upon years after you got KO'd by him in the first place and then say, you know what, I waited for 3 years, I deserve it. No. That's not how life should work in general. I don't think anybody should just wait. If I sit here and wait for my promotion and I never get it, I'd be like, well, I waited for it. I just sat here and waited. But if I went to work every day and I worked my ass off and I did extra work and I really grinded to get that promotion and I earned it, then I should get the promotion. Then I can complain to my boss like, hey, I worked my ass off for years trying to get this promotion and I didn't get it. What the fuck, man? But if I was lazy, didn't do anything for years and just said, well, I waited for it, so I deserve it. No, that's not how life should work in general. Stipe should not be rewarded for waiting. In fact, nobody in the UFC should be rewarded for just simply waiting unless they've already earned it and they have to wait just naturally. But if he's just waiting after losing and not earning it back, then doesn't deserve it at all.
Calm down. Is Stipe Miocic the interim champion?
Right there. Right there. That disproves their whole entire argument. That right there from Dillashaw pretty much takes their argument, puts it in a paper ball, throws it in the trash can. I can't say Kobe because I want to say Kobe, but I can't say Kobe, but you know what I mean. But that right there pretty much just proves their whole argument from TJ Dillashaw. He's not the interim champion. If you are the interim champion, you are next in line for a title shot and nobody should supersede you. Simple as that, period. If you have the interim belt, that means that you are the champion instead of the champion who is currently out for several reasons or for their specific reasons. But if you're the interim champion, that means you are the current champion instead of the undisputed champion because they can't defend their belt. So that means that you should be able to unify them or have a chance to unify them to prove who's the actual champion in the UFC. That should be the whole deal. That should be the whole case for Tom Aspinall right there. But somehow Stipe finds his way into this conversation because Jon Jones said so.
Is he?
No. So who's the interim champion?
And Rampage doesn't even know who the interim champion is. He had to lean over to the, what's his name? I think his name is Bear DeGidio. He leaned over to him and said, is he the champion? Is he the interim champion? Why are you even arguing at this point, Rampage? You don't even know who the interim champion is without questioning yourself. It's Tom Aspinall, not Stipe. So why did you have to lean over to Bear here and give him a, like, is he the champion? Yes, of course he's the fucking champion. This is the whole argument everybody's having. I don't know, man. It's just like so insufferable. But we'll keep moving on, man.
Who's it?
Tom Aspinall.
Aspinall.
So who does the interim champion usually fight?
The champion.
Exactly.
Who's the champion?
Jon Jones.
He's the champion heavyweight?
Yes.
Where he get the belt from?
From beating Cyril Gahn.
And where'd he get the belt
Where
from?
did Cyril
Cyril Gahn didn't get the belt. It's because Nagano left.
And then who didn't Ngannou get it from?
What?
Who didn't Ngannou win the belt from?
Got it from Stipe. What are you talking
Thank you.
What? Wait. What is this logic? I'm not understanding their logic here. So they're pretty much saying that since Jon Jones, since he beat Cyril Gahn, and then Cyril Gahn, what? I don't understand the logic here. I think they're trying to say that since Stipe was a former champion, that he has earned a title shot. I think that's their whole case. Since Stipe was like a 3 championships down from Jon Jones, that he has suddenly earned a title shot, which makes no sense in the current landscape of the UFC. That time was like years and years ago. And honestly, it doesn't even correlate because Ngannou never fought Jones. There's no direct line that connects Stipe and Jones because nobody in between that fought Jones because the whole Ngannou situation kind of fucked everything up. So this logic doesn't really make much sense because I don't know. Am I missing something? Let me know, because this makes literally zero sense because Stipe had the belt at one point and he lost to Ngannou. Then he has a deserved title shot to fight John Jones, who beat Cyril Gane, who arguably wasn't even the best heavyweight in the world at that time. I think it always was Tom Aspinall in the first place. So what? And if you go back in time, if you want to like go in the past here, Stipe's last fight was against Ngannou, which he lost by KO, flatlined, out cold. He was put out cold by Ngannou. That was his last fight in the UFC. So how does him getting flatline KO'd make it or justify the fact that he deserves to fight John Jones? I mean, if anything, that pretty much just justifies that Ngannou is the rightful heir to fight John Jones and not Stipe. And that can't even happen because Ngannou's at PFL doing his own thing right now or not fighting and making a bunch of money. So that fight can't happen because it's across two different promotions unless the UFC wants to co-promote with PFL, which they probably will never do. And if they do that, that's probably going to be like years upon years down the line where it's at a healthy point, which right now it's not at a healthy point with the whole Jake Paul stuff. So I don't understand this argument at all. It makes zero sense. I don't know why they're going like thank you to each other because it's a kind of an asinine, an ass argument to go with the Aspinall joke they're doing or whatever. Stupid.
God, we're investigators. We do this for real day in and day out.
Look at Dillashaw shaking his head. Like he knows it's stupid. Like that doesn't prove anything. He's just sitting there shaking his head like, what are these guys even saying? What are these guys justifying? It makes no sense. And Luke Rockhold's giving a side eye as well. He's like, these guys are stupid. These guys are dumb. What are they talking about? It doesn't make any sense. I don't know, man.
I'm a podcaster, brother. I got lineage. I'm like an ancestry.com. I will find it all the way back, all the way forward. Helio Gracie.
MMA math
Carlson
don't work
Gracie.
like that, man. It's who's got the belt and who's the interim champion.
And just like that, whole argument shut down. It's that simple. It really is just that simple. It really is that easy of an argument that people can't seem to understand when it comes to Tom Aspinall versus John Jones. It has to be this sort of sophisticated jumping through hoops, loopholes, or just saying that John Jones asked for it and he's the GOAT of the sport who does roids, who has only done negative things to the UFC because he's ruined whole events. He's done roids. He beats his wife. Why does John Jones get to control the UFC? Why does he get to do whatever he wants? He's done horrible, horrific things. He has ruined UFC events. He's popped for roids. He's a fight. It's a no contest against DC. He KO'd DC on roids. And you're telling me he can just go around the UFC and just ask for anybody because he deserves it because he's John Jones? No, I don't agree with that at all. I don't think that should be the case. It's stupid. It really is just dumb.
And that's the biggest name that Tom Aspinall can fight right now to make the most cheddar. That guy should get a payday.
What do you mean?
Hey, this is not
Pay-per-view.
MMA anymore.
Stipe deserves the payday.
This is boxing now. It's getting into the boxing realm where they're choosing their fights.
No,
Yeah,
Stipe-
It's just,
Listen, I understand that. Like that is a kind of a you don't want the UFC to become boxing. You don't want the sport to revolve around, oh, let's just make the biggest fight possible, which honestly isn't a bad idea at times. But however, when you compare Tom Aspinall and what he's done to earn a title shot, and then you add on top of that how much bigger of a fight Tom Aspinall versus Jones is as compared to Jones versus Stipe, just all of the signs point to Tom Aspinall should be next. Everything that's beneficial for the UFC, besides John Jones losing, points to Tom Aspinall being next in line to fight John Jones. The only reason the UFC, I think, is really against letting John Jones fight Tom Aspinall or letting Tom Aspinall fight Jones, because Jones don't want that fight. Tom Aspinall wants it. But the only reason the UFC is against that is because they have a really sick feeling in their stomach that John Jones might lose, and that is their GOAT. That is the most, not even promotable guy in the UFC, but every single year or every single event sometime during the year, the UFC needs one person who they can call their GOAT. Every single era, to be exact. Marketing somebody as the GOAT of your sport is really, really beneficial towards pay-per-view sales. It keeps buzz around their name. It keeps a fighter promotable. And it honestly kind of deludes people into thinking that they're the best of all time, when maybe that might not be the case. If you're a UFC casual fan, if you don't really watch that much UFC, if you're not watching every single weekend, and the UFC is constantly telling you, hey, I don't know, Chiweewee's fucking Raw Rosas Jr. is the GOAT every single week, you might like just come out and say one day randomly that Chiweewee's is the fucking GOAT because that's all you've heard from the UFC. If you're not really in the know and watching the UFC weekly or monthly or just very consistently at that, and you hear them promoting a guy as the GOAT every single week, then you might believe that that guy is the GOAT. And just having a GOAT, because the UFC always does this. When Kamaru Usman had his championship, he was always called the welterweight GOAT, or that he was close to GSP. When Adesanya had his belt, people were always comparing him to Anderson Silva because that is good marketing. And so the UFC wants to keep this foothold on Jon Jones as the GOAT because it's good marketing. And I think it's just simple as that. So to kind of put this all in a back to circle or whatever, Luke Rockhold says that this is kind of getting into not MMA, it's getting into boxing realm with the whole marketing thing. But the whole reason the UFC is probably doing the Jones versus Stipe fight is for business reasons, is for marketing reasons, is for money-making reasons. So, you know what I mean?
Stipe deserves the Stipe deserves a shot.
Yeah. So what you think?
What should have happened was when Jon Jones got injured, is Stipe should have fought Tom Aspinall.
Serial Gon has turned down.
See, I don't mind that. I don't mind that. Sorry, I mean to come off there, but I don't mind that. I don't mind Stipe fighting Aspinall in the meantime. Maybe it shouldn't have been Blaze. Maybe it should have been Stipe. I wouldn't mind that fight at all. Honestly, still don't think Stipe deserves that fight because Stipe hasn't fought in years. But if the UFC was so torn up on Stipe versus Aspinall, then make them fight each other, and the winner earns that Jon Jones fight. But the UFC kind of knows. Stipe hasn't fought in years. He's been out doing his fighter shit, been doing his stuff. He's a great person, by the way. He's a good person, but he would get KO'd by Tom Aspinall in the first round, I think, fairly easily. I think we would see a worse KO than what Ngannou did to Stipe if he fought Tom Aspinall. Just saying that. And if you disagree, you disagree, but I still think Tom Aspinall, and the majority of people think Tom Aspinall does beat Stipe, is what it is.
Down a fight against Tom Aspinall because he's shooting a Netflix movie.
Oh, dope.
Wow.
Good for him.
Odd excuse. Serial
That's
Gon's
not
a
an
monster.
excuse. That's awesome. Maybe he's getting paid really well.
I mean, that's just odd.
You get paid to be in a movie.
And Cyril Gahn is his whole another different realm of a stupid conversation. I'm not going to get into Cyril Gahn. That's probably for another video and another time. But Cyril Gahn turning down Tom Aspinall, I think, was probably one of the worst decisions for his career. But it is what it is. That's neither relevant to this conversation whatsoever.
Movie rather than getting punched in the face.
So what?
Let's do it.
Who should
put this on.
Stipe fight? Who should Stipe fight?
Well, now, I mean, if they're waited this long, Stipe should fight Blades.
Stipe should fight Blades. I think Pereira should fight Gon. Pereira and Gon would be a badass fight.
I don't mind that. I think that Stipe has been out for a very, very long time, and he should have to earn his keep. He should have to earn his way to a title shot. And honestly, him versus Blades is not a bad suggestion from Rockhold, because guess what? They're both on a one-fight losing streak. I mean, one's more relevant today than it is back when Stipe fought Ngannou, because Ngannou has been in the UFC for like a year and a half, 2 years now. I think Ngannou's been gone. I forget, but he's been gone for a very long time at that. And so Tom Aspinall just beat Curtis Blades, so it is what it is. But that's kind of the extent of their conversation. I didn't really like how Rampage and whatever this guy's name is, Bear DeGidio, kind of just justified the fact that, oh, Stipe had the belt forever ago, so he should fight Jon Jones because Jon Jones wants it. No, that shouldn't be the case whatsoever. It's a dumb, stupid argument. I don't agree with it whatsoever. But you know what? The UFC is going to do what the UFC wants to do. They want to do Stipe versus Jon Jones. They're going to do that no matter what we say, because Jon Jones is the supreme lord of the world. He is the supreme leader. He is, I guess in their eyes, Jesus himself, which is blasphemous, literally blasphemous, because that's the whole point of that word. But I don't know, man. It's stupid. It's dumb. that's my whole rant for today. I hate it. Dillashaw knows what's up again. The whole Anthony Smith thing, he knew what was up then. And with this, he knows what's up now. So Dillashaw, respect to you. You keep it real. You are the truther of the MMA fighters. Because I think Rampage and Rockhold don't watch this shit no more. They don't watch UFC no more. They might tune in for a big pay-per-view, bro, but they don't really pay attention like that. And I think it's pretty apparent in this podcast. But that's it for you guys. If you enjoyed this, like, subscribe, bell icon for notifications. I'll see y'all later. Peace.